Hello, this is Novex IT, and today what we're doing is working with group policy management, and we're going to learn how to configure domain-wide password policies. So what you want to do is first, log in to your domain controller, which I already am. So this is Windows Server 2022, and before we go on the how-to, just kind of briefly explain why would you want to use password policies. So when you implement a password policy in Active Directory, it's basically a fundamental step in securing your organization's network. So these password policies enforce rules such as minimum password length, password complexity, and password history. And all of this essentially helps to prevent weak or easily guessed passwords, reduces the risk of unauthorized access, and ensures compliance with industry standards and regulatory requirements. And it even also encourages better user security habits. So we're gonna help through this practice. We're gonna help make this possible through group policy. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to our domain controller. So one way to access it is going to the start menu down here at the bottom left. I'm gonna open Windows Administrative Tools. I'm gonna look for Group Policy Management. That's what we're gonna do. So you click on that and go ahead and expand it. And then I'm gonna expand here. So now I expanded the forest. Mine is nxdomain.com. And I'm gonna keep expanding. So now my domains, I'm gonna expand nxdomain.com. And let me expand this. So default domain policy, I'm gonna right click it. I'm gonna click edit. So now I'm gonna expand this right here, get a better view. Okay, so from here we're gonna go from computer configurations to policies to Windows settings, then to security settings. Then we're gonna go to account policies, and we're gonna go to password policies. Let me just click on it. So there we go. So these are all the different policies that we're going to kind of configure and take a look at. So we'll start with minimum password length. So you can double click on this policy. So you see okay, so this one is already checked right here. So to find this policy setting, it says 7 characters. So we're gonna adjust this. We're gonna put it to 14. You could also, if you wanted some more explanation, I'm gonna go click on the explain tab right here, and just do a quick read right here. It's a minimum password length. The password security determines the least number of characters that a password for a user account may contain. The maximum value for this setting is dependent on the value of the relaxed minimum password length setting limits. And you can keep reading, but it just kind of explains kind of the range. So right here is to see when I put 14 earlier. Right here it explains that that's the limit. I can't go above 14. So yeah. So once we determine how many characters we want, you can click OK. So next we want to look at password must meet complexity requirements. So let's take a look at this one. So I'm gonna double click this, and password must meet, okay, it says enable, disable. Obviously you want it enabled, but let's kind of look at the explain, see what that necessarily means. So this security setting determines what whether passwords must meet complexity requirements. If the policy is enabled, passwords must meet the following minimum requirements: not contain the user's name, user's account name, or parts of the user's full name that exceed two consecutive characters, be at least 6 characters in length, contain characters from 3 of the following categories, and it gives 3 categories. It even talks about, well, I guess this is one category, it's 2 and it's 3. So enabled on domain controllers, disabled on some. Okay, so we're gonna go with enabled and click OK. So let's take a look at another policy. So right here is maximum password age. So double click this. So this is already defined. It's set as 42 days. So let's take a quick look at the explain tab and just take a quick look at this. So you can read this. I'm gonna read this little note right here. Note: it is a security best practice to have passwords expired every 30 to 90 days depending on your environment. This way, an attacker has a limited amount of time in which to crack a user's password and have access to the network resources. So the default is set as 42. So let's just kind of think of like some scenarios. So like you can stick with the 42 for if it was like your company, for example, or this is practice. But let's say we have an environment that's like high security, maybe it's like government or like financial sensitive information, and we're like, oh, I think 30 days is best that expires and reset. Or like let's say it's like a typical business environment with good security practices, but is less stringent in compliance, then you can say, oh, maybe 60 days. The if you notice like employees are like starting to write down their passwords on like piece of paper or sticky notes or something, that's like very bad. You don't want them to write down their passwords because it can easily they could lose it, or like someone can steal it accidentally, or like who knows. So just consider the context. So let's go. I'm gonna just choose 30, pretending our company is like a high security, let's say a government company with sensitive information. So I'm gonna click OK. So let's look at this policy, enforce password history. They'll click this. So this is defined, and it's at 24 passwords remembered. So let's take a explain. So okay, this security setting determines the number of unique new passwords that must be associated with the user account before an old password can be reused. The value must be between 0 and 24 passwords. This policy enables administrators to enhance security by ensuring that old passwords are not reused continually. So if that's the case, then like the range is so it's either 0 or 24. Okay, I'd say it's for good practice to keep it at 24, just because you don't want to reuse a password and it'll take a while. So I'm just gonna keep this one. So I'm gonna click OK. So let's look at another policy right here. Minimum password age. So I'll double click this. So minimum password age, 1 day. So let's kind of even like you might guess what it is, but let's just double check what this means. Okay, I'm not gonna read all this. You can read this on your own, but let me just read the top right here. This security setting determines the period of time in days that a password must be used before the user can change it. You can set the value between 1 and 998 days, or you can allow changes immediately by setting the number days to 0. So the default is 1. Okay, so we're gonna just leave it as 1 day. I guess this is like appropriate for like most security environments. You can just leave it 1 day, and then like you could change it if for some reason, or you can set, or let's say it's like a high security setting, like I said earlier in our previous example, you can maybe, oh, I want to change this between like 2 to 7 days, and just put 2 days. But we're gonna just stick with one for like a most typical, most secure environments. So I'm just gonna go with one. Then let's look at store passwords using reversible encryption. So double click this. It says define password. So that's defined is enabled or disabled. So let's take a look at what this means. So this security setting determines whether the operating system stores passwords using reversible encryption. This policy provides support for applications that use protocols that require knowledge of the user's password for authentication. So you can kind of keep reading this, but like kind of just to summarize this setting. So like as you can see, it's already default as disabled. So this should never be enabled unless like you have like a certain application requirement that outweighs the need to protect password data. So you want this disabled to protect your password data. So I'm gonna click OK. Okay, and yeah, this is the end of our video. I mean, there's a few more options. You could also like explore those options as well, but those are like the most pretty important policies to consider when considering password policies. So yeah, if you found this video helpful, so you can like, comment, and subscribe for future content. So yes, that's the end of the video, and thank you for watching.